We're joined now by Jonathan Bean, spokesperson for Fuel Poverty Action, and Bill McGranagh, founder of Dad's House Food Bank. Jonathan, well, let's start with you. £1,000 for a rainy day. The consequences for those families who don't have it, this must be severe.
Well, yes, it's brutal. I mean, obviously we're in winter at the moment, and heating costs are much higher than normal. So if literally you don't have any savings, then particularly if you're on a prepayment meter, you have to keep that meter topped up all the time. So if you go through a cold patch or you're short of cash, you literally don't have the money to top it up and you're cut off. And we know that 2 million people last winter were actually cut off completely.
Jonathan, I think the point that Rosie makes really well is I always, when people say they haven't got savings, I think most people north of Islington, which I keep going on about, the world is much bigger beyond the M25, in the north of England and the Midlands, are struggling just to make ends meet. Those jams, those just about managing families with a couple of kids who are struggling to put food on the table. They wouldn't even begin to dream of having savings. They're trying to get through every month and just do what they've got to do. That's the reality for so many, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we've had 2 years now of inflated energy and food prices. I mean, energy is still 85% higher than it was 3 years ago. So if you just think about the cumulative impact over 2 years of paying thousands more on your energy bills, plus your food, plus your rent, etc., it's absolutely brutal. We need to make energy more affordable because people are literally freezing to death in their homes. And many people have, mold issues as well, because if you don't heat your home properly, you get mold growth. So the impact on people's health is significant. And obviously that's ruining lives, but it's also putting a lot of pressure on our NHS.
Yeah, it's obviously not just about heating your home, it's about putting food on the table. Billy, thank you so much for being here. Who are the type of people that you're seeing on a daily basis who need to use a food bank?
Well, I mean, we've been running food banks for over 10 years, and in the last 3.5 years, we've helped over 60,000 families, both in South London and West London. Previous to the pandemic, and it was people who were on benefits, but now food banks are classless. It affects everyone. And what people don't talk about is food insecurity, and we're a single dad's charity, so we'll get different kinds of dads coming into our charity, and they find out that we have a food bank, and then they'll sit down, we'll have a chat, we'll have a coffee, and they'll explain exactly what they're going through, So, but saying that, the food bank's for mums and dads. We have lunch clubs, we have breakfast clubs, and when people sit down and just have a chat together, that's when what Jonathan was saying about the prepayment meters is unbelievable.
Billy, can I tell you something? And people like you are an absolute godsend, and you should be saluted for what you're saying. You made a really interesting point there about single parents. We shouldn't say men or women, single parents. And the point that I was making to Jonathan about how hard it is. There used to be a stigma, didn't there, with food banks? I remember doing a show some years ago, and they said, we're going to talk to a woman in Tunbridge Wells. And you go, Tunbridge Wells? Yeah. The reality is that many, many, many thousands, hundreds of thousands of families and people, millions in this country need to use a food bank.
It's more than the food banks, because food is only one problem. As Jonathan was saying, prepayment meters is unbelievably expensive, especially with the standing charge. And families are watching that meter go down. So they'll cook something one day, they'll go without something the next day, and parents go without food to put food on the table for the children. Child poverty in the UK is skyrocketing out of control. Thank goodness that the cost of living payment between the 6th of February and the 23rd of February, I think it's 8 million families have been entitled to.
But that's the last cost of living.
Here's the last one. Just the last one.
Yeah.
Just to bring you back in, Jonathan, and you also do a fantastic job and highlight how difficult it is. Very briefly, because I haven't got much time, what needs to be done to make people's lives better and not suffer such appalling living standards, be it food banks, fuel poverty, whatever? What needs to be done, my friend?
Well, first we need to stop the prepayment meters. We've talked about that. Billy also mentioned standing charges. £300 before you get any energy is inhumane. We need to get rid of standing charges, and we need a more affordable energy system, which we call Energy for All, where everyone's guaranteed essential energy to keep them warm and safe and be able to actually, use hot water. We need to change the way the energy system operates fundamentally, and we can't just rely on, food banks, fuel banks, or these emergency measures. We need a more affordable energy system for everyone.
Brilliant.
Jonathan, thank you so much from Fuel Poverty Action. Billy as well.
Thank you, guys.
From
So
Dad's
much
House
indeed.
Food Bank. Really appreciate your time.